Hey guys! Welcome back to architutors. In this Photoshop tutorial, we will show you how to render an architectural plan in Photoshop like a professional. So let's begin. We have an AutoCAD drawing and we will be exporting a plan from the drawing into Photoshop for the rendering and post-production. So first I'm going to turn off the unnecessary layers in AutoCAD. This Photoshop tutorial will be helpful enough for anyone who already works in Photoshop as well as the beginners in Photoshop, including architects and architecture students. I'm also going to move the unnecessary blocks from the drawing. Turn off the layers for text and the landscape. And plot the drawing and make a PDF that we can import into Photoshop. You can also export it as JPEG or PNG. Save the drawing. And then turn all layers on first. And I will isolate the layer for text and the dimension. Again, go to Plot Options and I'll convert this into PDF as well. Now we have two PDFs, one is the architectural drawing and second is the PDF with only text from the drawing. Right-click on Plan PDF and open it with Photoshop. Choose the Art Box option to import this in same paper size and I'll set resolution to 300. Press OK. Now we have imported the plan into Adobe Photoshop. First of all, I'll create a new layer that will work as background layer for our project. Drag it behind the CAD drawing. I'll rename it to Background. Press Shift plus Backspace to go to Fill options and choose a white color to fill on the background layer. Press OK. Let's also rename the layer of the AutoCAD plan. Now select the other PDF file we exported from AutoCAD containing the text and drag it into Photoshop file. Again, choose Art Box option so it comes at right scale. If you're trying to render the AutoCAD plan in Photoshop, while having imported the PDF in Photoshop, you will notice that the line weight sort of decreases. It also depends on the resolution you selected while importing. Now to make it look better, you can duplicate the drawing layer a few multiple times and merge them. Right-click on Plan and select Duplicate Layer. And merge these layers together, as it starts to look better. If you're keen on watching more such Photoshop tutorials on rendering and post-production, then make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to receive all the latest updates on upcoming tutorials. But most of all, make sure you watch the tutorial. Your viewership means awful a lot to us. Now to start rendering this plan, let's make a selection of where grass is coming. Use the Magic Wand tool to make the selection from the layer of AutoCAD plan. Hold the Shift key and then you can add the new selection. After making the selection of the area, create a new layer. I'm going to rename the layer. Let's fill a simple color to this selection by going to Fill command. I'm going to write down a specific value of the color that I want to add. Press OK to continue. You can drag the layer down to the group icon to create a group for this layer. Double-click to rename the group. I'll call it grass. Drag the group to the mask icon to create a mask layer over the group. Now inverse the selection and delete it from the mask layer of this group. I am going to explain why we created that mask layer in just a minute. To remove all the selection, deselect everything using Ctrl+D. In the resource folder, we have a bitmap for grass texture. Let's import that into Photoshop. Let's convert this into a pattern by clicking on Edit. Define pattern. We can use this define pattern in our plan. I'm going to create a new layer under this group and apply the pattern to the whole layer. First, by making a color fill to the layer. Let's say a white color. Then double-click on the layer to open Layer Style and go to Pattern Overlay. Choose the pattern we created. As you can see, it only applies to the part where the mask has white fill on the group. If I take the layer out, you will see that the entire layer in fact has pattern applied over it. But as long as it's part of that group with mask layer, the part selection we deleted from the mask will be cropped out of the layers that are under the group. Let's rename this layer to Grass Pattern. It's better that you put a name to layers so you can recognize while you want to make some changes and do them quickly. We can edit the scale of the pattern applied depending on how it looks. For the next part, to make the grass look more real and detailed, first I am going to add a mask layer over this layer that has the grass pattern. Then go to Brush Tool. Select a brush preset with uneven strokes and enlarge the brush size. Lower the opacity and make sure the black color is selected. Basically, we want to fade or remove some part of the pattern using Brush Tool. Click on the pattern to see the effect. It should be random and will make the grass look more detailed on the render. It starts to look a lot more better. For the next part, I am going to create selection of all the walls from the drawing layer. Then create a new layer. Let's call it Walls. Go to Fill command and I'll select black color to fill on wall selection. Next, we want to provide the interior space with a texture. Select Drawing Layer and make the selection of interior space using the Wand tool. After making selection, we can make a new layer in Photoshop. Rename the layer. and then go to Fill command. I'll select a beige or a little off-white color to fill on this selection. The selection also contained the spaces of toilets that I want to show in a different color. So let's make the selection where bath or toilet is coming using one tool. And hold Shift key to add selections from this layer. After making selections, right-click and make Layer via Cut. It produces a separate layer for the part that was selected. We can call it Toilets and now got to Layer Style. And we can put a color on this layer using Color Overlay option. Press OK to continue. As you can see, there's a few gaps on wall where WC is coming. Let's make that selection using one tool. Fill black color to it in Walls layer. One of the most important parts that will make the rendered plan stand out is the background that we choose to give to it. Let's create a new layer and fill it with gray color. I'm going to fill the whole layer with gray color. We will subtract the rest by using Mask layer. Make the selection outside the plan using the Magic Wand tool. Put the gray-colored layer into a group. Provide the group a mask layer. Reverse the selection and delete it from the masked layer. Now the selection cut from the group won't be visible throughout the layers that are under the group. We can make a selection of the missing part and fill it with white color on the masked layer. In the resource folder, we have a texture file that we'll use for site surrounding. Simply drag and drop the image into Photoshop. Scale the image. I'll change the fill value. And add a mask onto this image. I'm going to fade out the corners by using Soft Brush tool with white color selected, keeping a low opacity of the brush. Now let's create a new layer. And try to create a shaded effect for the plan using Brush tool with black color selected. Make a few random strokes, and not a straight line. We can lower the opacity to make it look better. Similarly, create another new layer, and this time use the white brush around the four corners of the paper. Lower the opacity of the layer. There was a column left without the color fill. Select it and fill it with the black color in walls layer. Also fill the beige color on the selection outside where we are having puja room in the plan. From the resource folder I'm going to insert a texture I'm gonna use for the parking. Let's define it as a pattern. In the drawing, make selection for the parking area using the Wand tool. Hold Shift to make multiple selection. Create a new layer and fill it with gray color. Let's put it into a new group and inverse the selection. Add a mask to this group and delete the selection from it. Create another layer in this group for parking. Fill with a random color and apply the parking pattern on it that we created. And lower the opacity. Next up, we will apply the texture on the wooden deck area. First by making the selection using the Wand tool. Then create a new layer. And let's rename it. Create a new group and put that layer in it. And fill it with a color. I'll open the image file from the resource folder that I'll be using as a pattern for the deck. Go to Edit and define it as pattern. Apply the pattern on the deck layer we created. Next, we start working on the water body in the plan. Create a new layer. Select the part where the water body is coming. And fill it with a blue color to depict water body. We can change that later depending on how it looks. Now create a group for this layer with blue color. Create an inverse selection of the water body. Add a mask to the group. And remove the selection from the mask. We have a bitmap for water body that we'll use for the water body. Simply drag and drop the image in Photoshop. And make it part of the group. I will adjust the image to see how it looks better on the plan. Reduce the opacity of the image. And now we can change the color of the layer we used earlier. Simply go to Color Overlay option to see what looks best. I also want to add a glare like a reflection of the sun on this water body. Create a new layer for it and use the brush tool. Set white color and soft brush. Lower the opacity of the layer. We are almost done with the render, but at last let's add some trees and plants for the landscape. I'm going to import 1 or 2 plant or tree PNGs. Simply drag and drop the PNG in Photoshop and adjust the scale and opacity of it. Copy the tree object and rescale it. I'll also add a PNG for a plant. Let's add one near the water body. Maybe I will change the opacity of the group containing the trees. At last drag the text layer to the top of the layers. I'm going to make the duplicate of text layer and merge them together. We can make the minor readjustments. You can save this into a PDF, JPEG or any format as you desire. This is how you can go about rendering an architectural plan in Photoshop in simple and easy way. We'll be posting more such videos and tutorials on Photoshop about rendering and post-production on our channel. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to get all the updates. Thanks for watching. See you next time.